In the midnight glow where the stars align, we lose ourselves in the rhythm divine. Underneath the sky painted with dreams we're chasing.
Hello and welcome to episode 21. I am Mari,
And I'm Jody.
and today we are going to take a deep dive into the archetype of the planet Uranus, also pronounced Uranus by some, and by some even Uranus. But personally, I avoid Uranus at all costs. It's not, but it makes a good joke every now and then.
Yeah.
But there's multiple ways of pronouncing this planet, but it has a very strong archetype. And we decided to focus on Uranus today because it is making a big shift, much like we looked at Neptune in our last episode, making a big shift from Pisces into Aries. Uranus is making a big move this spring from Taurus into Gemini. And we're going to get into the specifics of that later. But let's just start talking about the planet itself, the archetypes. What is Uranus all about? It is one of the outer planets, so it's a slower moving planet, much like Neptune or Pluto, but it is definitely a little faster than those two. They're a little further out there. Its orbit through all 12 signs is about an 84-year cycle. So if you are blessed to be on this Earth that long, you actually can have a Uranus return at 84 years around that age. So it takes approximately 7 years to move through each sign. And in the collective, Uranus describes the evolution of culture and technology and where society must innovate, disrupt, and update. But on a personal level is really where I'm going to focus today mostly because we're all dealing with a big shift here. And we all, of course, have a natal Uranus as well. And so I really want to talk about, on a personal level, how best to work with this planet and what it can mean for you in your life. So, Uranus transits don't just change circumstances in the world and in your life, they change your relationship to possibility, which is actually really exciting. Uranus can bring about some very exciting things if we allow for the change that it insists upon. Before I go into a list of descriptive words for Uranus, I first want you to come at this from more of a story perspective of how Uranus shows up in our lives. So imagine waking up one morning and something just feels different. Maybe nothing dramatic has happened, or maybe something really dramatic has happened because Uranus can work like that too, but it also can be subtle. And no matter the circumstance, inside you, something has shifted, and the way you've been living suddenly feels too tight. Something feels off. The job, the relationship, the routine, the version of yourself you've been performing. You can't explain it. You just know, I can't keep doing this, whatever this is. I can't keep doing this. Uranus is the electric jolt of awakening, the lightning bolt that splits the sky open and says, wake up. The part of us that refuses to live a lie. It's a radical truth teller and a liberator. And his greatest desire is for your truest authenticity. Uranus wants us all to embody our truest authenticity. And sometimes we need to be woken up or shaken out of our conformity and patterning, all kind of very Saturnian things where we get into these routines and these patterns and what society has shaped us to be, or our family, or whatever it might be. We are creatures of habit as humans. And Uranus shakes that routine or shakes that up and says, wake up. This isn't really what you signed up for. This isn't truly who you are. So he is the wild, brilliant, innovative instinct that says there is another way. He doesn't care about tradition, your comfort, or how things have been done. He cares about evolution and shows up as the instinct to become unmistakably yourself. Uranus is often blamed for chaos, and it can look like chaos sometimes when he shows up, but chaos is just what stagnation looks like when it cracks open. Uranus doesn't show up to destroy what is alive in your life. He destroys what is dead and no longer working, what's imprisoning you. He shows up to show you that stability is not the same thing as authenticity. And when you resist him, he can definitely feel like anxiety. But when you collaborate with him, he can feel like exhilaration and deep alignment with your truth. Ultimately, Uranus is the evolutionary impulse of the soul, and he shows up to help you remember who you are and why you came. And so now I will hit a list of descriptive words. I just wanted to give you a picture and an imagining of Uranus showing up in that moment of, hey, it's time to wake up in this area of your life. So, what are Uranus themes around? Awakening, liberation, revolution, innovation, invention, and technology. The future reaching back to us to show us the way forward. Individuation, authenticity. I can't live a lie anymore, that feeling. Also, community, networks, movements, and collective change. Rupture as revelation. Nervous system activation, electricity, adrenaline, insomnia, restlessness. So there's a real charged nature to Uranus. Like I described that lightning bolt. There's an electric charge that comes with it that can actually affect our physical bodies, which can feel like adrenaline in your bloodstream or your nervous system buzzing or inspiration coming in at 2 a.m. or the impulsive I'm cutting my hair today, or you quit something suddenly, you move cities, or you're finally launching the idea you were circling, saying the thing no one else will say. Those are all sort of symptoms of Uranus being very active and working in your life. So Uranus does not negotiate with what feels false to us. It will often demand truth even before we are ready. And that is the part that people sometimes get a little uncomfortable around because we like comfort. We like I said, like we like our routine. We like to feel safe. And Jody is definitely going to go over what we have been through the past 7 years of Uranus in Taurus, which particularly likes to feel safe. And that's really shaken up a lot of things for us. We're going to touch on that in just a little bit. But Uranus is really the cosmic kick in the pants. That's that's what the final descriptor I have.
And I just wanted to add in the psychological astrology layer of this. Carl Jung describes the difference between your persona and your authentic self. So our persona keeps us safe, and Uranus comes in and activates who we actually are. Sometimes when people are going through those strong Uranus energies or transits, they can really feel that and feel like they just can't do it, like they can't do whatever it is anymore, meaning that if they're not living authentically, Uranus is the planet that's going to come in and say, okay, let me create a little chaos in your life so you see the light and make the changes that need to be made.
Yeah. Yeah. And as with all of these, all the planets, they ultimately are trying to serve you. They're trying to help you. And the resistance to that can make your life feel chaotic and it can be difficult. But if you embrace the lesson and really dig into what is this trying to show me, they're here to help. They really are. Jody, do you want to start in with natal Uranus? We'll start there and then we'll look at transiting Uranus.
Yeah. All right. So when talking about your natal Uranus, and that is whatever sign or house that Uranus was in when you were born, this is really who you are. It shows where you naturally think differently. It shows where freedom matters to you in that area of life. So let's talk about Uranus and Aries. And the years that this happened would be 1927 through 1935. So if you're born during that time, most likely your Uranus is in Aries. Otherwise, 2010 to 2018, and you're pretty young, but hopefully you're listening to astrology already. So this generation pioneers new expressions and courage and individuality. There's a strong drive towards self-definition without permission. Collectively, this placement challenges how leadership and personal autonomy are expressed. Next, we have Uranus and Taurus. This is what we've been experiencing the last 7 years with Uranus transiting through Taurus. If you were born between 1935 and 1942, there's a good chance that your natal Uranus is in Taurus, or 2018 to 2026, which you're probably definitely not watching this. So this is awakening in values and security. This generation questions money systems, food resources, land ownership, and the body itself. Collectively, this placement reshapes how society defines stability and worth. So we'll go into that a little more later. Next, we have Uranus in Gemini, which would be those born between 1942 and 1949. So this is the awakening of communication and learning. Innovation accelerates through technology, media, and information exchange. Collectively, this placement transforms how knowledge spreads. Next, we have Uranus in Cancer, which would be 1949 to 1956. This is awakening of home and emotional security. This generation redefined family roles and caregiving structures following global upheaval. Collectively, this placement changes how belonging and nurturing are understood. Uranus in Leo would be 1956 to 1962. So this is awakening of creativity and visibility. Authority and self-expression were challenged through art, culture, and youth movements. Collectively, this placement reshapes ideas about leadership and performance. Uranus in Virgo would be 1962 to 1969. Awakening of work and health systems. This generation questions productivity, culture, and introduced innovation in medicine, wellness, and service. Collectively, this placement transforms daily life structures. Uranus in Libra is 1969 to 1975. This is awakening of relationship equality, marriage roles, gender expectations, the social justice movement. Collectively, this placement reshapes partnership dynamics. And Uranus in Scorpio, which is 1975 to 1981. This is awakening of psychology and transformation. Taboo subjects move into public conversations, including trauma, sexuality, and shared power dynamics. Collectively, this placement exposes hidden truths. Shout out to all my Scorpio and Uranus peeps out there. And Uranus in Sagittarius would be 1981 to 1988. Awakening of belief systems and globalization. Travel, education, and cross-cultural exchanges expanded rapidly during this time. Collectively, this placement questions religion and philosophy. Is this you?
Sure is. I've done a fair bit of those things.
As you've noticed, it's all generational, right? So most people your age or who you went to school with are going to have their natal Uranus in the same sign as you.
Yeah, that's a good point. The school years, because it's a 7-year window. It's not a full generation like a Pluto generation, but it is a sub-generation. Neptune and Uranus both are sub-generations within the bigger Pluto generations.
Yeah, so we come in together with a collective job, I guess, is what I would say.
Definitely. In a way in which we are waking up the rest of the collective through our little lens, through the sign, our 7-year collective of humans coming in. We are waking up the rest of the collective through that lens.
Right. Yes. All right, now Uranus in Capricorn would be 1988 to 1995. Awakening of authority and institutions. Corporate systems and government structures began transforming under technological advancements. Collectively, this placement reshapes leadership and responsibility. Uranus in Aquarius is 1995 to 2003. This is awakening of technology and community. The internet era exploded. Humanitarian movements and digital connections accelerated. Collectively, this placement advances futuristic thinking. Uranus in Pisces is 2003 to 2010. This is awakening of spirituality and imagination. Boundaries between science, healing, and spirituality softened. Collectively, this placement expanded emotional and intuitive awareness. So that's one layer. That's the sign. And now I'm going to go a little bit into any conjunctions in your natal birth chart. So if you have Uranus conjunct your big three, so that would be your sun, your moon, or your rising sign, we're going to go over a few examples of what that might feel like. So when Uranus is conjunct your sun, moon, or your rising sign, the awakening is not an event, it's actually your life. So it's your personality. It's not something that happens later. It's just how you're wired from the beginning. So you're born carrying that lightning that Uranus brings. So if Uranus is conjunct your sun, this is all about identity and authenticity. The sun represents your core identity, vitality, and life direction. When Uranus is conjunct the sun, which means it's next to it, they're like holding hands, you cannot live someone else's version of success for long. You instinctively question expectations, you resist being in a box. Even if you try to conform, something inside of you will not allow it. So psychologically, it could feel like restlessness with authority, sudden shifts in life direction, a need to reinvent yourself, feeling different from others. Evolutionarily, the soul came in needing individualization. You are here to define yourself on your own terms. Uranus conjunct.
So basically, you're saying Sun conjunct Uranus is Thor. The first sentence that you said, it's like the lightning bearer, and I instantly was
Yeah,
like, "So you're Thor."
yeah, for sure. That's good. All right, Uranus conjunct the moon. This is emotional freedom and nervous system sensitivity. Our moon represents our emotions, our security, our attachment patterns. It's really our inner world. And when Uranus conjuncts your moon, your emotional landscape is electric. So you may have grown up in an unpredictable environment or felt emotionally different from your family. You may need emotional space to feel safe. Clinginess or emotional control will feel suffocating to you. Psychologically, this can show up as mood shifts, strong intuition, emotional independence, difficulty tolerating emotional restrictions. Evolutionarily, this placement is about breaking ancestral emotional patterns. You are not here to repeat them. And then last but certainly not least, if Uranus is conjunct your rising sign, this is visible uniqueness. This would almost be the same as if you were an Aquarius rising. The rising sign represents your physical appearance, your persona, how you move through the world. And with Uranus conjunct that ascendant, people see you different immediately. You may look unique, act differently, or move through life unconventionally. You reinvent your image often. You resist being defined. Psychologically, you may feel you never quite fit in. You outgrow environments quickly. You crave freedom in lifestyle. Evolutionarily, this is a soul that incarnates to model authenticity. You teach others by being unapologetically yourself.
So obviously, that is just your big three that we went over. We're not going to go over every single conjunction possibility in your chart, but definitely Uranus conjunct any of your natal placements is going to have an effect on that placement. As with all conjunctions and other strong aspects in your chart, all things to look for. Do you have any strong squares, oppositions, trines, like flowing energy, sextiles, etc.? All things to look for on your own when you're looking at your own Uranus in your chart, and the house as well. We didn't have time to go over the house. We're going to do a breakdown house by house with the upcoming transit of Uranus moving into Gemini. But obviously, there's another added layer there for you to explore on your own with your natal Uranus. But I'm going to just briefly break down the shadow side and evolved side of working with Uranus, because like every planet, sign and placement, Uranus has a shadow side, and he may be trying to bring you a sense of freedom, but sometimes the impulse then is for us to purely react. So the speed and shock value of Uranus can cause us to react without proper forethought. And this can look like blowing up your life to avoid discomfort, impulsive exits, burning bridges, basically, rebellion for rebellion's sake, destabilization without a plan, chronic restlessness, addiction to novelty or the new, always seeking something new, emotional detachment as self-protection, and I'm free used to avoid intimacy, responsibility, or consistency, clinging so much to that freedom that it is an avoidance of some sort of commitment. So those are all ways in which the shadow side of Uranus can work if we are not aware and working with it from a conscious state of understanding. It can take over as those impulses and be subconscious. And so that's why it's so important to look at these things and where Uranus is active in your chart, both natally and by transit, and to really work with this energy. Like I said before, Uranus isn't asking you to burn it all down. It's asking you to stop betraying yourself. It's trying to light up that real truth, that real authenticity inside of yourself. So if we're working with it from an evolved state, an integrated state, this can look like true authenticity without chaos, liberation, but with compassion, not cruelty, right? If you are liberated in your viewpoints, instead of being cruel about the way in which you project that onto others or explain that to others, you can do it from a place of compassion. Maybe you've changed your mind about something and that's now your truth that you're living from. But you can do that from a compassionate state for those who have not awoken to that truth yet, right? Change based on integrity first and foremost, innovation that improves and is in service to all living things, because it is very much about innovation, technology, all of those things. But in its evolved, integrated state, that innovation is in service to all of life. Nervous system mastery, staying regulated and grounded while evolving quickly, being very self-aware. Where do I need to ground? Where do I need to protect my nervous system during these very electric and frenetic sort of energy times when you're going through strong Uranus transits or strong Uranus energy? And speaking of transit, we are now going to transition into transits of Uranus, which is really what sort of inspired this episode in the first place because of this big movement we are having. And I'm going to let Jody talk a little bit deeper about what we've been through over the last 7 years with Uranus and Taurus. What has that felt like? What has that brought up for us? And then I'm going to go ahead and dive into where we're headed.
All right. So over the last 7 years, almost 8, Uranus has been in Taurus. And I went over this a little bit when I talked about each of the signs. So you're going to notice a lot of repeating themes. So Taurus is money, Taurus is food, Taurus is security. Taurus is also the body. So we are watching people redefine value itself. And security is no longer only financial, it's also our health, our freedom. Just taking those few keywords and looking back on the last 7 years, that kind of gives you a feel for what the theme of Uranus and Taurus is. And now we're going to be moving into Gemini, which it's air, so it's easier flowing than earthy Taurus.
Yes, Uranus is not particularly comfortable in Taurus at all, in fact, because Taurus doesn't particularly enjoy change. They like
Right.
stability, they like predictability, they like comfort. And Uranus comes in and disrupts that whole thing. So collectively, I'm sure we've all felt that in some way or another in our economy, our finances, cost of living, just a sense of the ground shaking a little bit with our security around our worth and our comforts. But it's here to shake things up and awake things like we talked about. And so I think we have become awake to some of the problems in those areas in our lives, particularly here in the United States, because this is where we live. So that Jody and I obviously have the best viewpoint from our country. But I think even around the world, other countries have been dealing with similar themes. And we've been seeing through the cracks into where the problem areas are in some of these themes, but it hasn't been particularly comfortable. And the shift now into Gemini is going to feel a lot better. It's going to get a lot faster, though. There will be more need for grounding because it's not an earth sign. It's not that Taurus was able to slow down the impact a little bit of Uranus. And now moving into air, it's going to speed things up. Change is coming in fast when Uranus moves into Gemini. So something to really be aware of is your own nervous system during this next 7-year transit, and really being careful to take care of yourself and ground yourself, and particularly in the body. This will be felt somatically for sure. But Uranus enters Gemini again. We've had a little preview last year of it, but it enters again and will stay there from April 25th, 2026, coming up here, into 2033. It will transition. It'll do that kind of jump back and forth starting in 2032, moving into Cancer briefly, and then bouncing back again, and then it fully shifting by 2033. I was going to say that too when Jody was talking about the years that she listed for each sign. There's going to be retrograde season, and there a little bit of bouncing back and forth at the beginning and end of those years marked. So look at your own chart. If you're on the cusp of those years, look at your own chart. It might be when it had jumped forward or retrograded back. So always something to be aware of with all of the planets, honestly. When we give you these time frames, take into account there's this kind of back and forth at the beginning and the end of these transitions. So, what changes when Uranus goes from Taurus to Gemini? We're moving from matter, stability, and resources to mind, information, and communication. From how do I survive to how do I think, connect, and adapt. And that's a major tone shift. It's less about what we own and more about what we know, how we speak, we think, we learn, we communicate. And so the new curriculum, I always call it, we're downloading the new curriculum right now, where Uranus is trying to take us. And it's going to be around information, media, messaging, learning, teaching, language, perception, attention, and curiosity, local communities, networks, mobility, everyday conversations, the nervous system, and mental patterns. And so we're going to be looking at rapid changes in how information moves. I think we're already seeing this. Again, we've had a preview this past year, and with AI and technology just moving at an insane pace, it's only going to get faster. So disruption and reinvention of education and learning is something that I am expecting to see the way we do school. We're realizing that it's a little bit of a flawed system. Some changes need to come in, and I definitely could see that happening during this period. New tech and media ecosystems and communication tools, that goes right hand in hand with AI. We're going to be seeing big changes in all sorts of communication and tech.
Crazy things coming out with AI. I was just on YouTube and it said there was a new song by Ed Sheeran, and I don't know, something about a daughter. So I was like, oh, I never heard that song before. And I clicked play and I'm listening and I'm like, this is not Ed Sheeran. So I did a little research online and oh, it's AI. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? It was really a great song, but it was claiming to be Ed Sheeran and it wasn't.
Yes, that same thing happened to me. And it was a Sia song and it was really good. And I'm like, why haven't I heard of this? And then I did a little digging and I was like, wait a second. And it turns out, yeah, YouTube specifically has signed really big contracts with certain artists that, for, I'm assuming, a large paycheck, I would guess, they have permissions to use their voice to create music. And it's a handful of pretty famous artists that have signed this contract with YouTube. And so you can't find these songs, interestingly enough, on iTunes or Spotify. They're only on YouTube, at least the ones that I was looking into. The Sia song that I found and really enjoyed, I wanted to download it on iTunes. You can't, because it's not, it's technically not, yeah, it's not recorded by these artists. So at first, that really took away my enjoyment. But then I thought to myself, why is that? Because there's not a human touch in it. Is that why? Did I feel like, oh, how can I emotionally attach to something that was created actually by a machine? But then ultimately, the lyrics, the music, the quality of the song was really beautiful. And I just went, well, if it touches me, it doesn't really matter where it came from. But yeah, it was shocking how the quality and how much it sounded like her too. To me, I hardly could tell the difference, except that it was too perfect. That's the only thing I could pick out. Is like it was too, there's no flaw in the voice at all. It was just too perfect.
The one
But
I
yeah,
listened to with Ed Sheeran, I was listening and I was like, this doesn't really sound like him. And that's what triggered me to, because I was just listening, I'd push play and then I wasn't really looking at what was on YouTube because I was multitasking. And when I went back and looked, I saw it was a very generic video of him, but nothing to do with the song, which was about a daughter. Yeah, so interesting. I'm sure
yeah,
there's
I've
going to
heard
be a lot of that happening.
way more of that. Definitely. Yeah. And ultimately, as a warning, I guess, for all of this is we're going to have to be very careful about fact checking. And I'm bringing that up later, actually. I'm just going to keep plowing on through what I was going to talk about because I will distract myself. It happens every time. And I go on a tangent and then I get to information that I was going to get to later. Okay. Oh, here. Literally, my next sentence that I was going to say from my notes is truth testing, misinformation versus discernment. We need to be very careful in doing our own research before just automatically believing something to be true that we see, hear, etc. on the internet, or even from other people who may have found it on the internet and believed it to be true and are passing it. That can be a very dangerous thing if it is misinformation, because it can get people very worked up or in their anger or in their fear or reacting from that place of fear, that primal place of reactivity without even any real basis in reality. We have to be very careful about that moving forward. And I think we're all aware of that at this point, but I really want to drive that home because I've already seen it happening. I've already seen it happening in the collective, and it can be a real danger. But there is also going to be network power, the power of communities and group movements, because Uranus is very much associated with the collective and what is highest and best for the collective. And when we come together during this time and we communicate from a place of compassion and love, we communicate with one another, we work together, we can make big changes. There's power behind that right now. Fast pivots, mental agility, and learn as you go energy. It's going to be a great time to pick up something new, learn something new, study something that you're interested in. But again, just all using your best discernment. So ultimately, Uranus in Gemini awakens the mind and forces us to update how we communicate, learn, and discern truth. Some things to be careful of, again, here would be information overload, nervous system burnout, reactivity to information, polarization through media ecosystems, something I just touched on. That these media ecosystems are going to be using this to create a narrative. And you need to decide if that is your narrative or not, and if that it's based in truth. And speed replacing wisdom, right? You've slowed down. If you feel yourself reacting to something that you've read, seen, heard, slow down. Do your research, check in with a couple different people, check in with yourself, with your inner gnosis, check in and let it sit before you react. Honestly, discernment, I had that like underlined and italicized and capitalized in my notes because discernment is going to be key moving forward. We have Pluto also in Aquarius and is there to stay for quite some time, which is obviously very Uranian energy. Uranus rules Aquarius, right? So we're really doubling up on all of this energy, Uranian energy. And so discernment is key. Slow down before you react, fact check, check with your inner compass, take purposeful care of your nervous system, find supportive communities and groups so you feel seen and understood as you evolve. Okay, and now I'm going to break down Uranus moving through each of the houses, depending on your own personal chart. Where is Gemini in your chart? Where is Uranus going to be moving for you and what that might look like? Now, these are just a few of the possibilities. Obviously, it's going to be an incomplete list, but these are some examples of what this might look like for you, depending on house. So, starting with the first house, if you have Uranus moving into the house of self, this could look like identity reinvention. You might adapt a new style, create a new story of yourself and your identity, literally looking at yourself in a new way. And this could be giving you the freedom and courage to be different, to really embody what has always been true on the inside, that authenticity, but maybe you've conformed in the way that you dress or speak or look to fit in. Well, now's your time. Let your sweet little freak flag fly and be fully authentically you, because that's what the world needs. The world needs that. The shadow here, though, could be external image shifts from impulse instead of from alignment, from that real truth of who I am, but just like impulsively or almost in an angry way, just being like, I'm going to chaotically change all these things because I'm feeling restless, right? Is it truly aligned with who you are, that truly authentic self? Or perhaps a feeling of instability around your body, yourself, or your identity. There could be some confusion, right? Because you may have been living in one pattern your entire life, and Uranus comes along and shakes things up, and it can feel a little unstable. Ultimately, you're wanting to get very clear with yourself around authenticity over reactivity. That is the medicine for that transit. Second house, the house of values. You may have new income streams, new and unconventional values. You may be changing your idea of what is valuable to you. Maybe it's not stuff, physical things. Maybe what's valuable to you now is travel. Maybe what's valuable to you now is experiences or relationships. It may change your idea of what you value. It may change your relationship to money and the way in which you value yourself as well, because our self esteem, the way in which we view ourselves and care for ourselves and value ourselves, sits in the second house as well. The shadow here could be financial volatility from impulse choices. Be very careful what you're doing with your money and where you're placing your money. Any big changes during this time around your finances, really think them through. Slow down and seek advice if you're going to be making investments, etc. So the medicine for this placement or this transit would be to diversify and keep a simple plan. Diversify monetarily, keep things simple, seek advice, slow your pace around decision making, and get clear around your changing idea of value before making any permanent changes. Third house of the mind, this is going to bring in brain rewiring, likely. Maybe new ideas. Maybe you will adopt a new platform, a new voice, more courage in your voice, or more authenticity in the way in which you speak. You might have tech or learning breakthroughs, these kind of quick ideas that come in that are inventive. The shadow here, though, because it is mind, could be anxiety, scattered focus, or overstimulation, racing thoughts, your nervous system on edge, and then it all sitting up in the mind, and you're spinning on things. So the medicine here for this transit is attention boundaries. Be careful with too much stimulus or technology
Where
in
were
your
you
life.
when I was in school, Mari? Why didn't you teach me that when I was in school? I can say I have my Uranus in the third house. So,
Yes, yes. So you are very familiar with this feeling from birth, right? You
right.
feel this. Yeah. Honestly, I think we should teach astrology in school. I really do. I
Yeah.
believe that we should teach kids how to know themselves on this deep of a level and to understand themselves from the inside out and use this
And
tool.
parents, how to understand their
Yes, and
kids.
teachers about
Yeah,
their
and teachers.
students, right?
Sure, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the medicine again for Uranus transiting through the third or natally, right? You could take all of these things and apply them natally as well. Is boundaries for yourself around stimulus. You're scrolling, your technology, you're just find yourself doom scrolling. Put the phone down and just ground yourself. Go put your bare feet on the ground. You can really be overstimulated and distracted during this time if you're not careful. So consider a mindful media diet, perhaps a little break or boundaries. They have that setting on your phone now that you can have it shut off a time. It gives you a time limit. I think it's really important to be aware of these things because it can really rattle our nervous system if we allow it to. And let new ideas take shape before taking action. That is a theme that repeats over and over again. Just slow down, It's going to bring in a lot of excitement, probably, right? And you might get excited and want to just leap into new things. But take that excitement and let it percolate, let it sit, go inward, make sure it's aligned with who you really are authentically before taking that action. Make sure it's wise. Discernment, once again, I'm just going to keep saying that word over and over again. Okay, fourth house, if Uranus is moving into the house of home and roots for you, you might be feeling restless at home. You might be moving home during this time. Your family story might be being rewritten for you, or you're seeing your family and your ancestry in a new light. You're waking up to something, old patterns of thinking within your family, inherited or about your family, etc. The shadow here could be instability in your close personal relationships with family or those who are you consider family. An inability to nest or find rest at home. You might be feeling real antsy at home and feeling restless and making a rash choice to move, even if it's not the right time, right? Because of that sort of nervous system restlessness. But some medicine here could be maybe instead of going all crazy and leaving your house, which I'm not saying that's wrong. Maybe it's their time for a move. People are definitely going to be moving with this transit, but maybe it's not your time for a move. Maybe you just need to paint a room a different color. Bring in something fresh and new if you're feeling restless in your home. And maybe create a portable sense of home. What feels like home to you wherever you go. Maybe try travel instead of actually moving and take that sense of home with you. Be sure to approach family matters with gentleness after taking time to really understand what new revelations are showing up around family dynamics and old patterns. And if you are addressing things with family during this time, remember to do it from that place of compassion, because you might be waking up to things, old dynamics and patterns within your family. But if your family's not having that same transit through the fourth, maybe they're not quite there yet. So just be gentle with yourself and others. Fifth house is the house of joy, creativity, and romance. So you might see creative breakthroughs, which is exciting, playful experimentation, unconventional romance, and curiosity in life and new creative projects. And because this is the house of creativity and procreation as well, you might find yourself wanting a child or getting pregnant during this time. Something like this could come along. Maybe you are somebody who didn't think that you wanted kids, and all of a sudden Uranus transits your fifth and you realize, wait, I actually do. So actual children can be a part of this as well. The shadow here, it could be chaos in love or dating for excitement and not stability. You're just looking for excitement, but not really looking at the reality of who this person is that you're trying to date. Or boredom loops. You might be, again, there's that restless feeling, and you might be getting bored with your creative projects too, and just like going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. So just things to be aware of, to follow through if you are inspired about something before hopping to the next thing. And the medicine here is to channel all of this new energy into something tangible and real. Take action in your creativity. Allow for more playfulness in your life. That's a big one with the fifth house. Really tap into that inner child. Get curious about ways to spice up your romantic life without detonating your romantic life. You can still spice things up without blowing up your life. Okay, sixth house, the house of work and routine. So you likely are going to be updating old routines. Maybe fresh ideas around self-care, health, and physical movement come in. Maybe what was working for you is no longer serving you. Your body literally might be asking for something different. Maybe you were always into cardio and all of a sudden your body's saying, you know what? I need to do some weightlifting. I need to change. There's something that my body's asking for that is different. It's changed. And new tech brought into your workflow could be something you see here. You might be incorporating more technology in your actual daily work, and fresh ideas around how to approach your work could come in as well. Maybe you're going to be reinventing the way in which you work. The shadow here could be burnout from constant pivots, change upon change. It can burn you out, your physical body, your mental state. A difficulty sticking to routine with so much energy moving. So if you are a person who struggles with routine already, that's really something to be aware of. Try to be consistent because Uranus is going to just add to that struggle a little bit of keeping those routines. Find something that excites you and then stick to it, right? Because to me, Uranus really is coupled with excitement. There's a real excitement and energy behind it. So, what excites you? And then commit to it in the routines. Take extra care of your nervous system and your physical health through steady routines. And lots of grounding practices for your physical body are very important if you're having this transit. And that's true for everybody, but particularly through this sixth house. The grounding, breath work, baths, things that really take care of and ground your physical body nervous system. And creating grounded rhythms for workflow as well to prevent burnout. So you don't go too hard, too fast with work as well. Seventh house is the house of partnerships. So your relationships might be changing shape. You may wish for more freedom, more honesty and openness, or more space within your partnerships. But it's something to be very clear about your communication with your partner. And partnerships is romantic, and also this can be business partnerships or your clientele as well. If you're working one-on-one, that all goes into the house of partnerships. So communication is key. The great thing about Uranus and Gemini is it helps us with our communication, actually, as long as we can slow down our speech enough and think it through, right? Because the speed could be a problem if you're just blurting things out without thinking it through. But it is a focus on communication and relationship in an air sign. You might have sudden revelations about a partner come up as well, right? You could suddenly realize something about your partner that you really hadn't clicked into place. And that could either make you want to really tie it down and commit more because you're so grateful for how wonderful this person is, or maybe you're going, oh, I never saw this before. This actually doesn't fit what I need and what I want. Sometimes breakups happen or new relationships happen with Uranus moving through the seventh. But the shadow, would be sudden splits, or commitment phobia is another curious shadow for this transit. There's this fear around committing because you don't want to be tied down. Uranus is liberation, it's freedom, it's authenticity, and so it can come around and make you afraid to commit. But the medicine here is agreements that allow for more individuality and authenticity in your relationship. You can still be very committed and find more space and more freedom within a relationship. You can have both, you really can, but it's all about communicating that with your partner and working with your partner in that way. And bring fresh energy and something new into your relationships to add new life into them. Spice it up. Okay, eighth house is the house of transformation. So you may be having breakthroughs around intimacy that allow for more authenticity in your intimacy and new ways of communicating those needs with your partner. So a similar feeling to the seventh, but this is on a deeper level. This is really committed. This ultimately like soul partnership, marriage, you are in it. Casual dating does not fall into the eighth house, but intimacy does, and sexual intimacy specifically on a soul level. And this might be bringing up fresh ideas in that area, communication in that area, but also old trauma patterns could resurface or show up out of nowhere, right? It's that sudden, I forgot that this ever happened to me, or something just comes up from under the surface in order to be fully healed. And it's maybe something that you thought you tackled in therapy, but there was another layer that you didn't know about that just bubbles up. And you honestly seeking therapy again and diving deeper during a transit like this, if something comes up, is a really wise move. Seek advice and help. Shared resource topics suddenly arise, inheritances, changes in shared finances, etc. You're learning how to communicate again with your partner around those things if there is any issues there, or you might suddenly have an inheritance fall in your lap that maybe you didn't know about, right? Like things like that. So the shadow here is destabilizing entanglements and compulsive intensity. So that little voice in your ear that tells you to burn it all down, that's something to pay attention to, because when you have the depth of the psychology and the sort of underworld nature of the eighth house and you bring Uranus there, it can be the little devil on your shoulder that says burn it all down and just destroy. So something to be very aware of there. Watch how your compulsive reactions. And that another shadow could be like the seeking intensity just for the sake of intensity could get you into some dangerous situations because it's compulsive. So the medicine here is transparency and therapeutic support. Be very open with your partner, very open about your finances, and seek support if you feel that need in any way, shape, or form. Ninth house, the house of expansion and belief. You may have new belief systems awakening within you. You might be tackling new studies. Sudden opportunities for travel or teaching might pop up for you. Revelations around hypocrisy or contradictions around what you've been taught, right? This is thinking outside the box around philosophy, religion, the way in which you were shaped either by school or family, etc. Your belief system itself may be undergoing some revelations. So some shadow here could be overcorrection. So swinging from one ideology to another because the nervous system wants stability. Because you find a flaw in your belief system and now you're over here, but that's not quite right. Now you're over here. And it's that desire to get it right. I need the right answer. And ultimately, it's more about the journey with the ninth house than getting it all right. That's one of the shadows of the ninth house, can be thinking you do have it all right and just forcing that opinion on everyone around you, right? Make sure that you are being authentic to yourself, but not necessarily pushing that on anyone else, and not just hopping around from one thing to the next sporadically, but more just trying to hone into what is true within your internal compass. So the invitation here isn't to grab the next certainty. It's to build the capacity to live with evolving truth, with curiosity and humility. That's the medicine. 10th house, the house of career and public life. You could have a complete career reinvention. Your public role might be evolving quickly. The way people see you when you're out in the world might be changing. And you might find yourself a new audience. If you are someone who has an audience or an influence, maybe online, you might be changing your message in some way out in the world. You could have sudden new business ideas coming in. The shadow here, though, could be abrupt exits, just impulsive, I'm out, I quit, I'm done, or reputation volatility, not showing up as someone stable in the workplace because of this energy. So your reputation could be changing quickly if you are showing that outwardly. So just be aware of that, just something to have your awareness turned on around. Maybe it's a really good thing that is changing, but also maybe it's coming just from an impulse. So slow down and make sure that it is truly aligned, and innovate without detonating is what I would say is the medicine there. 11th house, the house of community. So your group alignments might shift. You might be changing who you align with, your tribe, your people, your groups that you're in alignment with. Maybe because your ideologies are changing, maybe that is shifting for you. You might be taking on leadership in some of these movements, or have a call to activism and to really participate in your community in some way. You might have sudden insights into big picture problem solving for the collective. Remember, Uranus rules Aquarius, and Aquarius's natural home is the 11th house. So it's very at home here. And it does think big picture. It thinks what is best for the collective. So you might have some sudden insights around something that could really help humanity and groups of people. So some shadow here could be group drama, or the too many cooks in the kitchen feeling, intense polarization and argumentativeness in person, online, etc. Like just feeling like you need to fight for your cause, but not doing it from that centered, grounded place of love and compassion, but rather from anger, frustration, fear, right? Something to be very aware of there. And the medicine here is find yourself community that deeply aligns with your values. Think big picture and keep the focus on working together towards a common goal instead of pushing your agenda. Maybe you do have some brilliant new insights come in, but make sure that you realize you are still trying to work within a group and really try to work together. 12th house, the house of surrender and spirituality. This could actually feel like an unveiling, interestingly enough. In a house that is very foggy, often, the unconscious mental patterns might be revealed through Uranus moving through the 12th. So you could have sudden spiritual downloads, revelatory dreams coming in. So pay attention to your dream life, maybe start a dream journal. Some shadow here, though, could be anxiety spirals, escapism through media or technology, or really any type of escapism, because if it's uncomfortable, if your nervous system is activated, you might want to numb out and escape, and nervous system overwhelm. So the medicine here is solitude, rest, going inward, and once again, somatic grounding. Really take gentle care of the body, your physical body. Make sure you're grounded, because this can feel very unsettling, perhaps otherwise. Really going inward and finding that center. Something like a heart coherence meditation would be really helpful for this transit. Yeah, so that wraps up the 12 houses as far as transit for Uranus moving into Gemini. So hopefully that helps give you some at least ideas around themes and some things to just hold in your awareness as we're moving into this. So if these things pop up, you go, aha, I remember what they said on As Above, So Within, and I'm going to use that advice.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw in a little evolutionary astrology layer into this. So in evolutionary astrology, they see Uranus as soul liberation. So your natal Uranus shows where freedom already exists, and your transiting Uranus forces freedom where stagnation has taken hold. So wherever you're feeling stagnant, it's going to come in and say, it's going to come in and interrupt your comfort when comfort is blocking your growth.
I love the wording too on the first part you said about where Uranus is in your natal chart is where freedom already exists.
Yep.
Which I think often when we're younger, we don't realize that yet. It's actively working with Uranus in your chart, especially that natal placement, is realizing that is where you are channeling that freedom and really embracing that. I really like that wording. Okay, to wrap up here, I'm just going to give some practical tools for everyone, no matter your placement, no matter where this is transiting, practical tools on working with Uranus for everyone. Leave room for change, especially during this time as this is shifting, where there's a new curriculum downloading, right? So don't overschedule your life. Build flexibility into your plans. Things are changing. Expect pivots. Expect change, and it won't feel as dysregulating, right? And allow for it. Leave room for it. Upgrade instead of detonate. Innovate without burning everything down. Test before you leap. Make conscious change, not reactionary change. And care for your nervous system. Again, these are refreshing, but I just want to give you all together. Here's tools to work with. Uranus runs through the electrical system of the body, quite literally. So sleep matters. Try using magnesium and intention setting before sleep, and seeding your dreams is a fun thing to play around with. Breath matters. So try breath work, regular nervous system resets through breath. There's certain breath work that is designed for calming the nervous system, for slowing everything down. Nature matters. Grounding. Literally, like a lightning rod grounds the energy into the earth from a lightning strike. Put your feet on the ground physically, right? Physically touch the earth. Be in nature. You're acting as that grounding rod for that electric Uranian energy. Movement matters. Walking, moving energy through the body. If you have a lot of that energy moving, move your body to help your body process it. We've all had that feeling of if you've been sitting around too much and you just start getting antsy, you're like, just go for a walk. And if you feel a million times better, go lift some weights or push it, move it through the body. And technology breaks matter. Unplug. Literally, if you're feeling anxious and scattered, unplug. Just go outside and face your face towards the sun, close your eyes and just breathe. And with your feet on the ground, just if you're feeling that scattered, anxious energy, move away from the technology for a little bit, because we feel the electric current of the technology around us as well. Maybe sleep with your phone not by your head, not by your bed, things like that. So if your nervous system is fried, Uranus feels chaotic. If your nervous system is regulated, Uranus feels exciting. That's the difference, right? It's like really that self-care allows you to go, I'm excited about these changes coming in because I'm grounded, I'm ready. Ask the right questions. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Maybe get curious instead and say, where am I being liberated? Or what am I being liberated from? What outdated identity is no longer aligned with my truth? And what new identity am I waking up to? Curiosity is a key word for Gemini. Get curious. And you don't have to get the answer right away. Part of it is just the curiosity and the fun and the play and the learning of it all. So you can also collaborate with Uranus by literally speaking to him directly. You can communicate with Uranus or any of the planets by speaking to them, whether it be in meditation or if you call it prayer, whatever you call it. You can literally say, please show me what needs updating in this area of my life. Help me make this change consciously. I'm willing to evolve. Talk to Uranus, say, I'm willing, I'm ready. Can you help me free myself without harming myself? Can we do this in a conscious way and work together with it? And then finally, community support. Uranus does better in networks instead of isolation. You can get real caught up in your own little spinning thought patterns. But if you're in community and you trust that community, you trust those people, whether it be family, friends, whatever you call your tribe, your people, you can help each other. And Uranus works so well in group settings. So ultimately, Uranus is here to bring true freedom into your life. His job is to wake you up to what is real and alive for you beyond your conditioning and old ways of thinking and acting. It's to break us out of the ways in which we keep ourselves imprisoned, deceived, or small. And that's it. That's all I've got for Uranus today.
That's all I've got too. Thank you for joining us. And if you learned anything from this podcast today, please share it with a friend because it helps us be seen. And if you like and subscribe, that also helps our podcast get out there more for more people to listen to.
Yes, we always appreciate you sharing, liking, comment. If you comment, we will comment back. And we'll chat at you again in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for joining us under the stars today. We hope you're leaving feeling inspired, grounded, and more connected to your inner truth.
And if you loved this episode, we would be so grateful if you would subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone you love.
If you're ready to explore your soul's path through psychological, evolutionary astrology, and personal astrological coaching, you can find Mari at yoursoulpurposeastrology.com or follow her on Instagram and Facebook at yoursoulpurposeastrology.
And if you're ready to illuminate your birth chart and explore how essential oils can support your emotional and energetic alignment, you can find Jody at earthandskyessentials.com or at Earth and Sky Essentials on Facebook and Instagram.
And remember, your soul is always guiding you.
The magic starts within.